Thank you for joining us for a very special episode of Kenan and Kel with Adam and Aaron. Friends call me Adam.
And the Fantas call me Aaron.
We are excited for what we have in store for you all today. After reviewing every episode of Kenan and Kel, let's finally talk to the big two writers of the show. The mastermind behind some of our favorite episodes, Most Winter Blues, Dial O for Oops, Ditch Day Afternoon, Fenced In, not to mention Good Burger and Two Heads Are Better Than None. In recent years, they've co-created other sitcoms such as Austin and Ally and Cousins for Life. But now, this American television writing and producing duo are back working with Kenan and Kel again as the writers and EPs for Good Burger 2. We are happy to finally be talking with Kevin Kopelow and Heath Seifert. How are you guys doing today?
Hey, what's happening, guys?
Great. Doing wonderful.
Yeah, thanks for having us on. Excited to be here.
Adam, I'm just going to capture our excitement about this interview in a sound. Woo! Sorry, guys. Yeah, we are so happy to have you here. Oh my gosh. Yeah, like we were saying a little bit before we got rolling, it's this podcast has been kind of a passion project that has turned into, now real life encounters with human beings behind the scenes. But, so I was born in September of 97. So me and Good Burger are about the same age. So just so you know, but I grew up kind of in this, the shows that I was watching were a little bit later than Kenan and Kel. I watched more Drake and Josh and things like that. But then Adam would always put on Kenan and Kel. He bought like the box DVD set. We would watch it my dad would strap like a box TV to the back of a car seat, like in the van. And when we would go on vacation trips, like we would watch Kenan and Kel DVDs that were like stripped off of some like third,
they were legally required, Aaron, for all intents and purposes.
Black market. We won't tell.
So it was, we have been Kenan and Kel fans for a long time, and you guys are definitely some of the masterminds behind it. So we're so grateful to be able to talk to you.
Amazing. We appreciate that. And I would just say the fact that you guys have been watching every episode more recently than us, you probably are more familiar with the content than we are at this point.
We might be asking you a lot of questions and then remembering things.
Which one's Kenan?
Yeah.
Wonderful. I think we could get right into some questions that we prepped for you guys.
Please
bring them on.
So we were first introduced to your writing through different All That sketches. When it became apparent that Kenan and Kel were becoming the breakout stars, moving on with their own sitcom, were you surprised to be along for that journey?
I think for us, there was a little bit more of a natural evolution. We came on first. We came on to All That episode 1. It was Saturday Night Live for kids, and we had a million ideas. And I think it was an extremely talented cast all around. You look at everybody, and obviously Kenan and Kel had something special chemistry together. I think out of the gate, Kenan was somebody we met early on. He told us his dream was to be on Saturday Night Live, which is pretty exciting to see how that worked out.
Yeah.
Kel was great, big, loud, physical comedian, hilarious out of the gate. But I want to say there was an episode we were shooting, maybe, I don't even know how far into it, but Kenan had to go shoot some like pickup scenes for Mighty Ducks 2 or something. And so we had like a shoot day where Kenan couldn't be there. So for whatever reason, that day, like Kel ended up being in like 4 sketches or something. And I just remember he like went to the next level. Like I remember there was like a run through or something where he was just going above and beyond and just, improvising a little bit, but just kind of like in the way you would let him run with a bit. Like I put the screw in the tuna. You would kind of write a scenario for him and then basically just let him go.
Yeah.
And so I do vividly remember this like one run through or shoot day where Kenan was not there, where all of a sudden we're like, oh wow, look at this monster that's been unleashed, right? So but even with that said, I'd say like throughout the first, I think we did 2 seasons of All That before we did 1 season of Kenan and Kel, right? We were probably starting the 2nd season of All That and talking about what's next. What can we do from this show? Is it a movie? Is it a sitcom? Is it a spinoff? Is it, which actors is it with? And I think it was very, made a lot of sense to everybody involved that to put Kenan and Kel together in a more, I don't want to say traditional sitcom, but a fun, broad Nickelodeon sitcom, right?
Yeah, and then when it came to the movie, there was always talk about making a movie out of one of our sketches, but we couldn't really decide which sketch because there was all sorts of different sketches to do and what would pan out to a movie. So that kind of that was held off for a minute.
Yeah, I think the Good Burger movie, we'll get into that.
Yeah.
But I think that came out of after like All That season 3 or so.
Yeah,
but
You definitely showed everybody that your sketches for All That were the ones, right? I mean, you guys were making a lot of sketches, and then was it a natural evolution to get very involved in the writing process for Kenan and Kel too?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, we knew, the other thing was the two of them together were it was interesting because Kel was such an incredible physical comedian, and Kenan with his reactions and his delivery, it was just a match made in heaven. So you're already thinking, we got to get these guys together as much as possible in any situation, in the living room, in a store, whatever it was.
Sure.
So,
and I think in terms of our involvement out of the gate, once we were on board with All That season 1, we were shooting in Orlando, and it was kind of a very special but very isolated time in our lives where we spent a lot of time with the actors and Kenan and Kel and with the producers and with people from the network. So it was very much a team effort that was involved in a lot of the creative on All That. And then in moving forward to what's next, it was like, okay, well, here's the people that know the voices and,
Yeah, we were all kind of stuck together. So there was a lot of talk during like mini golf and things like that. You're just hanging out all the time and like, whoa, what do we want to do? What else?
Right.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think Adam's smiling because you guys are talking about all kinds of things that we have been curious about for years, like the move from Orlando to LA.
Well, that happened because the production crew, basically myself, Heath, Dan, Brian, Robbins, everybody lived in LA. So we all went down to Florida to work on All That originally. So we were down there for like 6-7 months already. So then once we added Kenan and Kel into the mix, we're down there forever. So now you're down there all year and you're overlapping the two. And then ultimately, we moved All That first, right?
We came to LA for, I don't know why I remember all this, but we came to LA for All That season 3, which we shot at the Paramount lot. And then we went back to Orlando and shot, I think, Kenan Kel season 2. Well, we shot a season of Kenan Kel, and then we came back. Then everything was back.
Yeah. And then once we had kind of this one studio we were working at, we just brought Kenan Kel back.
We took over. We had Nick on Sunset, was this great, building that we had kind of all to ourselves on Sunset over there, the famous old building.
And it was basically the same crew. We had the same, most if not all of the same crew. So we it kind of just worked that way. And
we were kind of like the Pied Pipers. We moved to Orlando, and then we brought a lot of people from Orlando back here to LA with us.
Yeah. And then, we did miss Orlando. I loved it over there. So I would do it all over again. I loved it, but we just couldn't be there. I had just had a kid, and it was like, we can't, and it wasn't just about me, of course, but.
Well, it's interesting because we were also working around the clock. So we were working almost 24/7. And so once almost didn't matter where you were, and when we were in Orlando, every now and then you'd have a weekend or a hiatus week where you took an extra day off, or maybe you came back to LA, maybe you didn't. But, we could have been anywhere. It was cool that we were on the Universal Studios lot. So when we took a snack break at 3 a.m., we'd go walk through the park and
that was
sneak into the rides and kind of walk around while they were like turned off. And that was a cool experience. But other than that, we were eating, drinking, and sleeping the shows. So it almost didn't matter where we were.
Right.
At some point, for the actors to have a life, we wanted to be in LA.
And they also weren't from Orlando, so everybody was just a transplant. So I think LA is a pretty good place for Kenan and Kel. So,
Yeah, definitely. And I'm glad you didn't remake the theme song in LA. I'm glad you kept the original.
Never. No.
The greatest.
No.
There were a lot of discussions.
It was shot at in LA. It was shot at the Universal Studios in LA. So
okay.
That's where that one was shot.
Kel theme
Yeah,
song.
the Kenan and Kel one. The All That one was shot in Orlando on the lot.
I know once we moved to Nick on Sunset, we shot like sort of a glamorous, like old Hollywood all that intro. That
Yeah.
that was in the lobby of Nick on Sunset.
Yeah.
I remember that.
Wow. This is
That
so
was good.
cool. Hearing all the behind the scenes stuff and just how it all worked together. I kind of like a question about that chemistry that you had with all of the actors. You know, when you're writing let's say an episode of Kenan and Kel, how much do you write Kenan rock more, and how much do you just, you know, let them write the characters as they're acting? How much of it is their own improv, and how much of it is the writing?
Every single thing was us. No, I'm just kidding. It was, they had a
Well,
lot
I
of
think, like I
creativity.
mentioned a minute ago with the screw and the tuna, I think there were moments that were clearly designed to be like, okay, you guys go off and be crazy and do something here. And we would, things were very outlined and very structured and very written, but it wasn't always written exactly 100% in their voice. We'd be like, "Oh, here's the line, but say it how you would say it." There was I think a lot of freedom for them to kind of deliver the lines how they felt were maybe a little more natural. That we weren't necessarily going to be sticklers about every word being pronounced exactly how we were picturing it. That we knew that it would come across.
Basically, for all the characters on the show, they were all like Kenan Kel. They all pretty much improv their parts to a point where they stuck to the script, but it was.
And every now and then, maybe you would do a couple takes of something, and they would be maybe going off script a little more than you wanted to make sure you had it as written before you went off. So usually, like take 3 would be like, okay, here's the okay, cool, we have it in the can the way it's written. Now have fun on this pass. This is the crazy pass.
And they would even surprise each other, which was always really fun. They had to not laugh.
Oh yeah, some of our favorite moments of the episodes are the ones that someone's still laughing. And it's,
I'm
absolutely. Sure. Yeah. Or we would write some physical bit for Kel, and you would never think that it would last 3 minutes. And you're going, how are we going to cut around? Like you wouldn't. I particularly remember one when he was in a bank. And he was supposed to get tangled up in some of the
Ditch Day Afternoons. With the Chirons they're out there. Yeah.
I don't know how long. I think we did a rehearsal and it was about 8 minutes. I don't know, but it was so funny. I can't even. And each time it was just funnier than the next, and it was very hard to edit.
Yeah, there was always a lot of like Kenan is doing this while in the background Kel is breaking the water faucet or whatever it is, and you would just kind of let it go. And you always had the shot. You could always cut to Kenan's reaction for something to pull up time.
What was our, we had it on autocorrect. It was, we would push K, what was it?
Well, we had auto type. So we would do KSK would be Kenan shoots Kel a look.
Yeah, because we did so many of that. And we had a bunch of those. Stuff
like that. If you just type WT, it would spell out the whole Welcome to Good Burger, home of the Burger. Every time.
Right.
Wow, the original predictive text. You just kind of go, oh, that's
great.
Yeah. Adam, did you have a question about kind of like the production?
We're talking about that shift from All That to Kenan and Kel. Was it a very similar work week between the two?
I think structurally it was, in the sense that like Monday morning was a table read, and then they would go rehearse while we rewrote, and then Tuesday there'd be like a run through and
for us.
We'd rewrite after that, and then Wednesday would be like the network run through. We'd rewrite, and we'd shoot Thursday, Friday. For both those shows, we did live audience shows on Friday, so we would shoot the more difficult stunty stuff on Thursday. But the difference is that on All That, we would end up shooting about a show and a half a week. On All That, we would just cram, because it was sketches and you didn't know what episodes they were going to end up in. We would just shoot as much as we physically possible every week.
Right.
And I think every single season of that show, they'd be like, the first season, they probably ordered 13. After that, it was probably 20 or more. But so like we ordered 13 episodes, and somewhere around like week 8 of shooting, we'd call them and go, by the way, we've already shot enough for 15 shows, and they'd be like, cool, let's finish out the season and just deliver more shows. We'll take them.
Yeah, it was also
we'd be like, oh, we need 2 extra musical guests. The last week would always be like extra musical guests and extra cold opens.
Yeah, that was also a fun little because All That had music, so we had a stage set up, and we used to do that a lot. So we didn't have to do that with Kenan.
Right.
Yeah, Kenan Kel was definitely more structured, and you had definitely had your recurring sets like you would on a sitcom. So
and you're only allowed so many.
Living
by
room.
the way, we were only allowed like 1 or 2 swing sets per show, so you tried to limit them. So, or if you used them, we'd try to redress them for the next week.
Yeah, probably a smaller budget for Kenan and Kel, I would guess.
Yeah,
smaller budget for Kenan and Kel, more of like the similar sets, right?
But another thing that was really different was they were playing the same characters every week. So with all that, you're creating new characters and doing old characters, but it was a lot different trying to get all the characters just right, especially if it was something new. But with Kenan Kel, you were able to just keep taking those characters and advancing them and giving them more personality, giving them more characteristics, as you went along. So that was also pretty different creatively.
Yeah, and I think on All That, right, you're trying to utilize like a cast of 7, 8 people and give everybody something to do. And on Kenan Kel, I mean, it's Kenan and Kel first, right? You have an extended cast there, but it's their show.
One of the interesting things I was kind of noticing when I was looking up some of the shows again was that they were in almost like every scene of this show. So Kenan and Kel probably together too. They were not even apart that much. So you would have one of them either entering the scene, and then it was really interesting. They had a lot to do. So the two of them worked round the clock on that show, and they weren't quite 18 yet, right? Wasn't it?
Yeah, and it was mean, it was definitely very exhausting for those poor guys.
Yeah,
and they worked so hard.
Yeah,
and you don't always think about that, but it's a lot to ask. And now I think maybe it's because we were in Orlando, and maybe the laws are a little looser. But nowadays, I feel like we're always talking about kid hours, and you can only use this actor this many hours because they're this age and they have to do this many hours of schooling, and we were always up against the clock and these days. And I don't remember that a lot in the Kenan and Kel days. I remember having almost the entire show in the can before we did the live audience show, and we'd get to the live audience show, we'd be like, we're just missing line 13 from scene D, and we're missing this line, let's make sure we get that good tonight, but otherwise we have everything good. And then ultimately you'd almost end up using everything from the live show.
Yeah, they elevated their performances. Those were the best. I miss those. Like, oh my goodness, those were great. You guys would have loved it.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. You can feel it for sure too, especially in contrast to some of the separate ones.
You know who our audience warm up kid was? It was Nick Cannon. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Starting in LA. Yeah.
And boy, he was good.
You can feel like, especially at the end of the show. Like at the end of each show where they come out on curtain and just get to improv. I mean, it's like, that's Kenan and Kel, and it always ends, here it goes. And it is just like, it erupts, right?
We would just throw out, bring something else and a third thing and take me somewhere. And then.
Those were probably almost all pre-written. The beauty of the curtains, and I love it, is that we were always able to end episodes in the midst of just total chaos. You just build to the funniest, craziest moment, and then it's over. As opposed, like now, I feel like now you always have to have that one last scene where they're like, you're punished, and I'm sorry, Dad.
The Full House.
It was always like, yeah, my parents were pretty mad at me, but anyway, let's go on.
And that's it. Yeah, that really saved us a lot of headaches.
Yeah, you could say anything you needed to say. Like, oh, we forgot to wrap that up. Oh, we'll just have Kenan say this, or.
We always made sure in our episodes to detail the 3 items, and then
the 3.
Adam definitely did a read at the end of the last episode. I don't know if you have the list, Adam. No, I'm just kidding. Of all of the
I'll
items.
take the time up now, but I listed everything that Kenan ever asked Kel for at the end.
Wow,
really?
We really get into it. In the beginning of the show, we were doing the Rigby's accounting department to see how much money Kenan and Kel cost Chris and Rigby's. I mean, that didn't last very long because the numbers started to pile up after $1 million boxes of Poodle Puffs. But
that's hilarious.
Well, I think there's the one episode he actually cuts Kel off of free orange soda. Right?
Oh yeah. Oh, he puts the chain on the cooler.
He got a job. Kel had a good job.
Yeah,
that is great.
Yeah, definitely. Oh yeah. We have some other only the writers would know questions for you in a couple of minutes. Please. But I do want to ask you about what Adam and I call the Kenan and Kel formula. So what we've noticed after watching every single episode and talking about each one for at least an hour is I bet you never thought people would do this, right? I mean,
we double the length of the show.
Wow, I hope you never listen back and are like, man, they were really mean about that one.
No, that's okay. Never. It's okay.
Never.
The Kenan and Kel formula, right? It's like the quintessential Kenan and Kel episode. We're wondering, in your mind, what is the Kenan and Kel formula? What is like the path that Kenan and Kel take through an episode?
Well, it's interesting. There's different types of episodes. And if you notice, some of the ones that you even mentioned have one type. Like it's something that starts really bad and just gets worse and worse, like the sweater. So it just keeps building and building and building.
Those were a lot of our favorites.
Those were like
For
our
me,
favorites.
It's like,
and then you have the one where there's a bunch of balls in the air and they're juggling things. And then, for instance, like the other one with the sweater, even the one like dial O for oops, that one, it just keeps getting worse and worse. And they're trying to get. So we love those kind of episodes that they start in one place and just keep escalating. We didn't do many B stories, so some of them do where they're a little more complex, like the one with Josh. What was that one? The present tense, where
Poem Sweet Poem.
Poem Sweet Poem was a good one,
right? And I remember that one is one where you kind of had to choreograph, like, okay, well, like people were just putting things in lockers and the wrong people were getting them. Yeah, there was math. Those are there's choreography and math involved in those for sure. But yeah, for me, the quintessential is like a simple problem that just escalates and escalates to like just a really horrible place.
I think my favorite episode was like parental guidance because first of all, the name. So you got it. That was a good one.
So the names are so good. Yeah.
Parents. So how is it? But anyway, but just the fact that he went all out of his way, and it was for a good thing. He was getting praised by the principal, and he got his parents involved. And then it just kept escalating again. So that one had a little bit of everything in it.
I would say that in many of those episodes too, there's situations where the problem probably could have been averted if Kel had just said something earlier that he knew, information he had. That could have saved them both a lot of headaches. Fenced in, their head stuck in the fence, and then Kel just walks around the side of it. Wait. Yeah.
So good. Yes, that's beautiful to hear. I mean, we definitely, you watch enough episodes, it's not that hard to realize the formula, but also it's noticeable when it's not there. Like there are definitely some episodes written by every time we see one of your episodes coming up on the list, we'd be like, okay, we're in for a.
Well, we had a hand in all.
We certainly rewrote a lot.
Yeah, we went.
But I do feel like, and maybe in the earlier seasons too, probably the first season, there might be one or two maybe that were just from outside writers that we didn't have as much interaction with and didn't get rewritten as much, or we were still finding the Kenan Kel voice, probably especially early on.
Yes,
exactly.
I mean, I think even our first episode that we wrote, but it didn't air before, it was mental telepathy. For us, it was like, oh, here's just funny scenario, funny stuff. But then I think the next one we wrote was the doing things the Hemingway, and that was the one where we found, oh, okay, this is like an idea. This is something that works for these guys, right? It's a slightly bigger idea, but you still need to come up with what's actually happening within the episode and all the chaos. So like the idea for the episode sounds great in a log line. It was before people used to talk about bucket lists, but it was like basically Kenan makes his bucket list, but it's not what he's going to do in his life. He's going to do it all this week because he's Kenan. He can't wait, right? He's impatient.
And then being from like this kind of sketch minds that we have just bits we like to put in. So we have a billion bits lined up, and then we just go, oh, this would be great for that. Like we always wanted to do the bit like where someone walks upstairs and they leave a trail to find their way downstairs. So it's perfect opportunity for that, right? So we would just start. We would almost like be a series of sketches put together for Kenan Kel. At least ideas that you can't make sketches out of, but we would.
Well, and I think even for us, when we talk about like what are our favorite episodes of shows or this or that, and every now and then they can't all be A pluses. We know that, but we would say like, that might not have been the best episode, but all anyone's going to remember is the part where Kel got his head stuck in the toilet or whatever happened. Like, that'll be that episode. It's not, no one's going to be like, oh, the B story didn't make sense, or like this didn't add up.
Yeah.
You're just going to remember that big physical moment.
Kel put a snow globe on his head,
Yeah, stuff like that.
Whatever it is.
Toilet fell through the roof.
Yes, exactly.
Yes.
So we have to talk about doing things the Hemingway. It is actually so
through no fault of our own, like just happenstance, we became our most referenced episode. Pretty much every episode, there's something that like made us point back to that one.
Yeah, when he brought the juicer to juice his fruits.
Yeah.
Yeah. That was a really interesting episode because so much happened, and that was one of those, a lot was going on, right?
Oh yeah.
I mean, he was trying to win the love of a girl. He was doing it, and it was a very, it was very poignant in explaining
Right.
Kenan's character right off the bat. So
The Rigby scene in like the middle of the episode is just like the whole second act, like just so long, so many things happen.
Is that the I think
Wait.
she's a senior?
is that the one?
Yeah.
The
He
elderly.
kisses Ethel, yeah.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah. Like we
Yes.
introduced some of those characters.
uh-huh. Another one where Kel, like he went for it. You know what I mean? It was like,
yeah.
I want to say,
Fully went for it.
and I believe that was live when he did that, and he just, yeah,
Their reaction sounded live. From
yeah, yeah.
That sounds right.
That's another one of my favorite episodes too. I'm glad you referenced that one because that's a good one.
Yeah, it's so good. And then, Adam and I keep joking of, like we want to, there's a weekend where people climb the steps of the Sears Tower for charity.
Yep.
And we're like, Adam, we got to do it. Unfortunately, it falls in the same weekend as Bacon Fest every year. And that's kind of Adam's
in
favorite.
Pennsylvania. It's such a heartbreaker.
Win.
Oh wow, where's Bacon Fest? We have to come to that. I climbed here in LA. The U.S. Bank Tower is like the tallest building in LA, and I did that last year. I climbed it, but it's only 74 flights.
Yeah, still doing things to Hemingway all these years later.
Yeah, I did think of that episode when.
Yeah. I know that was one of our most expensive episodes at the time because they're like, wait, now you want a scaffolding? We had to be out.
Oh yeah.
I think that had 3 sets instead of 2 or 1. So that was a bigger one because we also had a rooftop and then there was another one.
Wow.
So.
And any special connection to Hemingway for you two, and any love of Hemingway, or did it just come naturally?
Well, we were both English
like
majors, and I did enjoy him, and we loved the name.
Oh,
again,
yeah, it's
Oh yeah.
So it worked.
Yeah, no, we were both English majors, so
yeah, no, that's great. I love Kenan's just he's so like, I need to set goals for myself. I need to go do it.
Yeah, and then he kind of to make him work.
Yeah, he wanted to climb something really
I can't
high.
climb something that high right now without leaving the city, so I'll go to the Sears Tower.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you guys, when you're working on the characters throughout the show, have any rules of your own for them that you kind of stood by?
None that I remember. I mean, really, did we?
We tried to keep them consistent, and we probably didn't always succeed at that. I think in terms of Kel's selective intelligence, we call it, that we really did try not to veer too far in the direction of stupidity, and that's why we always called it selectively intelligent.
Yeah, and we gave him a lot of moments that he shined and was really, really smart.
And I think even with a character like Goodburger Ed, who's similarly selectively intelligent, that to us it always felt like they're literal people. Maybe there's a sincerity and a genuineness that can cause them to misinterpret situations, but we tried to keep it reasonable.
Yeah, it definitely is one of my favorite parts when Kel gets to shine. I feel like we're always rooting for Kel, right? Because Kenan is scheming, and every now and then, it's just a little bit too much. It's and then Kel shines with a brilliance of getting a 96 on the test, or the IQ test, or all that stuff.
Right.
You've written so much together. You've written so much together over the years. Like in Kenan and Kel, is there a difference between a Kevin joke and a Heath joke?
Well, I would say the funnier ones are more like Kevin.
Right. I figured that. Right.
I figured
goes
as
without
much.
saying.
Yeah. We all know that here.
But no, we agree on all this stuff. For some reason, we have the same sense of humor, so we basically agree. We just look at each other and go, yeah, that's what I would have said too. And that happens more than not. And then once in a while, if one of us really sticks up for something, the other one is like, we let it go, and then it usually works, believe it or not. And if it doesn't, no harm, no foul.
It's odd because I feel like we've worked together for so long that we probably, if there was a Kevin joke or a Heath joke at one point, that we probably have just worked in the same world so much that I am now coming up with Kevin jokes and he's coming up with Heath jokes.
Yeah.
I would say in the early days, maybe I was a little more into like wordplay kind of stuff, or like you mentioned, even like the titles of episodes being thing. Like those are kind of thing that I think I used to come up with very easily. But now for both of us, it's just what's a funny scenario, and really having a good partnership. I think is about building on what the person has, and it's also just a good room partnership. When you have a good writer's room,
a perfect barometer.
Everything starts with here's the bad idea, and then someone says something. They're eating oranges, and then the next person says, "Well, what if instead of oranges, it's kumquat?" Like, yeah, and then what if this happened? And then everyone just builds on it till it gets to the funniest possible place. Hopefully. And like Kevin said a second ago, it's like sometimes you hear something or you read something, you're like, I don't know, I don't think it's that. This doesn't seem funny to me, but everyone else here seems to think it's funny. So let's hear it at the table read, or let's see it at the run through. The run through, nobody laughs, and you're like, haha, I was right. I know more than everybody. And then you change it that night. But then sometimes everyone laughs, or it even strikes you as like, oh, wow, that actually was really funny. I didn't see it. We were also, by the way, being blessed to work with Kenan and Kel, who on those rare occasions where we wrote something that wasn't funny, they would find
we didn't know,
and they would make it. They could squeeze funny out of anything. So, that was a luxury that we had that not all writers have, is we could just turn in this thing, and we might even be thinking like, okay, we call them Monday jokes, because you're going to like work a little harder and come up with something funnier during the week.
Yeah.
And you didn't usually have to come up with a better joke, because they would just make it work. They'd make it funny.
And then there was lines that we wrote. We just couldn't wait to hear them say them, because we knew exactly how they were going to say it. We knew exactly how Kenan was going to look at them. I knew exactly, and it just would be like this magical thing. Yeah. Boy.
I want to switch gears a little bit to Good Burger. I have some more Kenan and Kel questions, but I want to get to Good Burger. So, is it true that Good Burger was created in like a 6-month window, and there was 6 weeks to film? Does that sound right?
That sounds about right. I definitely remember having conversations about, what would make a good movie spinoff from All That, and everyone, I think, unanimously said Good Burger.
It was interesting. We were shooting on the Paramount lot, so it made it a lot easier. So we wrote an extra long Good Burger sketch one week and invited all the executives over from Paramount to watch it.
We want to do a Good Burger movie. Come see what this is. And we did it.
And it had more of a story to it.
Yeah, it had a little more A, B, C story to it. And, the executives came and watched it, and they saw the audience going nuts over it. And they were like, okay, cool. Yeah, let's figure out how to make a movie out of this. And then I think there was a little back and forth on what would the story ultimately be, but it did come together shockingly fast, I would say.
Yeah. We mentioned talking about going from sketches to full sitcom, going from sitcom to full movie.
Yeah.
Or any kind of growing pains stretching that story as far as it can go.
Well, there are different things. I mean, the sketches were completely different than the Kenan and Kel show. So, Good Burger had slight crossover. Good Burger was way broader than anything. So we kind of had to tone down the broadness, so to speak, for Kenan Kel. Believe it or not, after watching how many episodes you watched, 60 something up. I mean, yes, all that was much broader than that even. So,
we knew that to ground that character in a movie, that you wanted to place them around people that were more just regular. And we knew we wanted it to be a Kenan Kel buddy comedy, right? So really it was figuring out what's their situation, what's their growth. And I think things kind of fell into place fairly painlessly. I'm sure there's a million other ideas sitting around there. Some of them you might have talked about on your what could a Good Burger 2 be?
But it's funny. I know during that 6 months, we didn't think it would take 27 years to be talking about this again, to do the next one. I know that for a fact.
And in terms of evolving from a sketch to a full-length movie, I think we probably had some first drafts of sketches that were movie length. So,
Adam and I, on your behalf and on behalf of everybody who worked on Good Burger, we submitted Good Burger to the National Movie Registry. Unfortunately, it didn't make it this year.
Unfortunately, yeah. They went with The Little Mermaid and Iron Man for some reason.
Well, is it like the Baseball Hall of Fame or something, where like every 4 years they can look at it again and
reconsider something like that. Yeah, so don't worry, we'll stay on it for you.
Well, thank you for doing that. I personally thank you for doing that. That's very nice.
Yeah, well, we actually believe it's a cult classic movie. Everybody knows Good Burger. When it got put onto Netflix, it was like people, it was all over the internet, and people love that movie, and they love the sketch first, right? So I don't know, what has it been like to watch it kind of change over time and then to be writing the second one now.
Let's just back it up to the actual sketches. I mean, when we were first doing the sketches, I don't think we really had much feedback and knew how people were responding until we saw live audiences or until we went out in public with Kenan and Kel. You don't know. They didn't have social media like that back then. So you didn't have immediate response or even ratings that you can look. It was just, we didn't know. So then you start to see, wow, this is a really big, and we thought they were funny. So we just kept making more and more. Before they even aired, we probably made 5 of them. So, and then it's just kind of taken off from there. We keep coming up with new bits and new pieces every time we were doing Good Burger, to the fact where we're like, wait, did we already do that one already or no? And then we have to go back and look at them all. And then now with the movie, we've just been thinking about it so much over the last 25 years. It just kind of, we definitely had a lot of ideas for it.
And it is interesting in terms of like, I think the age of the people that we see getting excited about Good Burger, because now it is definitely much people that were kids then, but now it's their kids as well. So like, I feel like there was a point where like we would be working on a show and people would be like, oh man, I grew up on all that and this and that. And then now there's people that were older than growing up on that. Like it's like this weird window. They'll be like, oh yeah, my younger brother liked it, or my older brother liked that show.
Right. I think, in one of the interviews we were watching of Kenan, he was saying how it's like, it's strange to help people grow up. But really, that's what Kenan and Kel did, and that's what you guys did. You help people grow up, the shows that are on Nickelodeon or Disney, and just kind of helping you be exposed to ideas, to laugh. You watch it when you're home from school. You watch, Good Burger is just, it's always funny, whether it's on late night.
I think our whole MO was we didn't want to preach to anybody. We didn't want to teach too many. We figure kids are coming home from school. They just want to laugh.
Yeah.
That was
we wanted to be funny first.
Yeah.
And Nickelodeon shared that enthusiasm for that idea at that time. There is a lot of working in children's television. There is always a lot of discussion about like, well, is this appropriate? Will kids understand that? And we never thought it was funny to try to sneak inappropriate stuff into the show. That was never our MO. Our thing was like, let's make something that we think is really funny. There's a much smaller well to draw from, because you're not going to make sex jokes or religious jokes. We tried not to make current pop culture jokes, because we wanted the stuff to be evergreen. We wanted people to, our test for that was, this has to be funny whether or not you get the reference. Like, it's fine if you want to make a joke that's about Britney Spears, but this has to be funny on its own. So this should be evergreen for kids. And I think our philosophy was sort of summed up. I love one of the curtains at the end of the show. Kenan and Kel come out, and I don't even know which episode it is, but they go, man, I really learned a valuable lesson today. And Kel goes, oh, was it this, this, and this, and this? And Kenan goes, nah, man, I'm just kidding. I didn't learn nothing. And for me, that was what the show was all about. That was our philosophy in writing kids TV. We've had a lot of writers from great network shows come in and submit or pitch stuff, and I think they tend to see as writing for kids as writing down and dumbing down, and we never saw it that way. Sometimes there's a joke like, well, kids know that word, and we're like, well, they will after they see this scene. Right? I mean, we'll give them credit for being smart.
And Lord knows, S&P sure thought we were doing things a lot of times, but we did, standards and practice. They would think we would make up words. I remember we did one, it was a cheese, and we called it flagnog. No reason. We were listing cheeses, and they're like, okay, we know what you're doing. We said, we don't know what we're doing. What are you doing?
They're the ones with the filthy minds.
Yeah. If you noticed or remembered after watching 60 something up, we didn't use school that much either, because we felt that a lot of shows, that's what they use school so much. It wasn't a good well to mind. So unless we had to go there, and there were some little mandates like, hey, can you go once in a while and show that they are actual children, because Kenan worked and it wasn't like a workplace kind of, so we did it very sparingly, but we know kids just want to escape school.
I recorded the episode while I was teaching. I was teaching for 2 years, and so I would come, I would finish this day of school, great. And then you could tell when I had a bad day if listening to the episode, because every episode I was like, this is so this is so terrible. I was so not seeing School, watching Kenan and Kel was even good for me. So thank you very much for doing that.
Even for adults. And we carried that with us for all the shows we do. Yeah, we do that with every show. We just try to stay away from School as much as possible.
Well, there's so much more to life than school, even for the kids.
Yes.
I think we're going to get into some nitty gritty big target items that we've always wanted to know as Kenan and Kel fans.
Ooh, I hope we can answer those.
Ask anything.
We talked about this briefly about how you wanted to limit sets, and I assume that's why we never saw Kel's place. He's always hanging out with the Rockmores and stuff like that. How did you guys imagine Kel's home and like his relationship with his parents?
I think that's part of it, is letting the audience imagine what they must be like. Because you can really flow that one. Like it could really, you know what I mean? Like we all have different visions of what it is. And we went back and forth on whether his parents should be really, really smart, like a nuclear physicist and or just like him. So I kind of picture them being pretty normal, believe it or not, and very loving and friendly, his parents. And I don't know.
I always enjoyed maybe leaving stuff to the audience's imagination. There's certain things where you just know, there's going to be a bunch of speculation. Is there something that we could show them that would be surprising or satisfying? Or is that something that's just like better if everyone just fills that in their head?
And I'm certain that goes into the topic of Chris's mother.
That was a little... Okay, I guess the word creepy, but it was a little creepier. He had a very odd relationship with
I do feel there was maybe a little bit of a psycho Norman.
Yeah. Well, was it House Sitter? His fish was named Norman.
Yes.
That was a kind of almost a nod at that.
And his mom might not even have been alive anymore. We don't know, but it's just one of those things. Like maybe she wasn't.
Oh, like he was out. Yeah, when he was out to dinner at Les Meats, and she was in the bathroom. It's like, was she really there?
She's doing her meat teeth.
Yeah. I remember. Didn't he have foot scrapings from her once?
Oh yeah,
maybe. Yeah. Or he was going to
shaved belly. Yeah. She has a hairy belly.
Yes,
and then he had like an odd alter ego thing going on, right? Didn't they run into him at like a biker bar or something?
Oh yeah. That's my favorite cameo of the whole entire show. Yeah, when Kel goes into the pool hall and just.
You know what? I gotta
isn't
watch.
He there, but like, does he? He claims it's not him or something, or like there's something.
Yeah.
He's very accusatory immediately, very defensive about being there.
I gotta watch that show again. It is very okay. Did he have a brother? We did.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Brother.
Yeah. He's got like the kind of evil twin. Almost.
Chris bought his mom for her birthday like a little tiny pyramid, and then his brother bought her like a trip to go see the pyramids or something like that.
Right.
Yeah.
That sounds
just
right.
always outdoing him.
We got to share our personal theory about Chris's mother.
Please do.
So this comes from the episode of the Chicago Witch Trials.
Cardellini, yeah.
They suspect that she might be a witch, and the person that tells them all the witch tells and stuff like that is Chris, for some reason.
Yes.
One of our favorite scenes of him.
We had the flashlight, right?
The flashlight shooting around. In addition to some of the things I list, which is like mentions weird body parts, like foot scrapings. She's often away claiming to do things like lumberjack school, and the evil twin. Is this some kind of experiment gone wrong?
Yeah.
We thought that Chris's mother might be a witch herself.
I like that.
Season 5.
Yeah.
I think.
Yes.
I don't. I would not. Or a Wiccan, right? Isn't it a
Wiccan? Yeah, could be more of a digestible
It's
version.
a very good theory. I don't know if we wrote an episode if they'd let us air that, but
Well, you never know. They let us air that one, and we did do Two Heads, which definitely had some supernatural.
Yes,
it was a movie.
Yeah, that's the thing. There's magic in the world of Kenan and Kel, according to Two Heads and Better Than None.
Right.
Oh yeah, you watched that one too, huh? The Two Heads.
Oh yeah.
The mother was just. You need a joke every time you come in to the scene. So if he's talking to his mom, and then it just kind of escalated.
Right.
We go, wow, that's a funny relationship.
And then Chris also has like this pewter cow collection. He's such a amazing dork, and we love my personal favorite character. We actually hold on one second. I'm gonna show them one of our items, Adam.
We've exchanged a couple gifts throughout the years. Behind me is the Bye Bye Kenan Part 1 picture.
Oh yeah, look at that.
Wow.
Amazing.
Aaron was nice enough to give me.
I have a bunch of souvenirs from the show at home that I have on my person. So I will I will let you know
Oh,
when he gets
excellent.
back.
Yeah, we used
to take
we were so excited.
souvenirs.
Every week we would take a souvenir from that week's show. And then
Oh, that's so cool.
one
Yeah.
day I opened this box and it's an empty can of orange soda. Like, what's that?
Yeah,
Like,
and it was
okay.
like-
And so much of it was just junk, but it was like
Yeah.
at the time it meant,
Yeah.
Oh,
Rigby's
nice.
Here's one, the homemade Rigby's
Very
apron.
nice. I love it. That's the same blue, right? It's the Kelly
Yeah.
blue
Oh, yeah.
or whatever. So we were saying how we would take souvenirs home. Like at my house, I actually have the screw that was in the tuna. I have it at home.
No way.
oh my God.
It still has a little bit of tuna on it. They have like fake tuna on it.
Smelled good.
I have. And we have like whatever they used in the show. We have a lot of stuff from.
That's so cool.
And then the souvenirs would get smaller and smaller because you don't have room for. too
Yeah,
big
at a certain point you'd be,
Yeah.
yeah.
I don't know if you guys have seen our. So Adam's getting married in the summer, and so he asked me to.
Oh.
I'm his best man, which is pretty cool. So.
Oh wow.
But then he just
Excellent.
made me this little number.
Ah,
So this is our podcast. This is our podcast logo.
you guys,
Of
this is too much.
that's me. It's me, and that's him. And yeah, so
That's great.
That's the show in our. It's really it's improved our relationship as brothers. I'd say over the years.
I would say so. Yeah.
That is great.
Yeah. So I mean, in doing the episodes, this is more than Adam and I have talked in probably most of our life.
Wow.
So
I actually have a box of Google Puffs signed by all of them from the pilot.
Oh, the
I have that
pilots.
No
actually
way.
in my office at home. Yeah, that's
Well,
my
I have
favorite thing.
Penguin Hunter game pieces.
Oh yeah, Penguin Hunter game
Was that a
pieces.
game?
no.
Penguin
way.
Hunter.
Yeah,
I have a couple of those.
we will send you one. I don't know. I'll try to find some of them.
Oh, that'd be so cool.
That would be amazing.
Yeah.
We'll
A
talk.
piece of the show is.
Yeah, I'll see what
Yeah, we have many other
phenomenal.
theories too. Like, the company Google was founded after the Google Puffs episode of Kenan and Kel. So we kind of thought that they were
So
inspired by you guys.
Wow,
We don't really know
I like
about that one.
theory.
Yeah,
Do you think we might be owed some money?
I think so.
Yeah, that's hilarious.
We're not lawyers, but yes, absolutely.
Kind of jumping back in. I don't want to take too much more time, but
No worries.
Good.
This is great.
awesome. So we mentioned Two Heads. The end of Kenan and Kel.
Yeah, that was
Sure.
the last thing we shot with them.
Right.
It was very sad.
Right. So is that how you would have liked the show to end? Was that like an ideal ending that you had planned for a while? Did you ever think of season 5? Was season 5 in the works?
Well, whenever you've finished any show, you never know if it's going to be the last episode, so you don't know what to do really. So it's like
Yes and no. I mean, I do know that when we shot that, we knew when we
That
went
one
into
we
the
did.
final season, we knew it was the final season.
yeah,
We knew we were going to end with the movie, which was they were sort of counting it as 3 episodes, right? So, and in that day and age, shows never went past 65 episodes. 65 was like the magic number you wanted to hit because once you hit 65, they could strip them and air them 5 days a week, and they would rerun 4 times a year. There was this number, was this
some
formula
algorithm.
somebody had
something.
figured out. I think something, maybe Clarissa explains it all, went past 65 and everyone was like, ooh. And then all that went
Yeah,
to
we've done hundreds.
we did like 120 something episodes at the point that we first left the show, and then it kept going, and then we went back. So I don't even know what all that
Yeah.
is, probably at 200 episodes at this point. But and obviously a lot of kids shows since have gone much farther. But so I think 65 was the number that everyone wanted to hit. And I think with Kenan and Kel and All That being back to back to back to back, those two guys especially never got that time off, right? Like normally on a show, you do the show, then like, okay, cool, we're going to do next season. You have 4 months off. You have 6 months off. They were like, you have 3 weeks off, and then we're going to start doing
And we
the
would
next season.
overlap. We would be taking out the sets of one and putting.
So I think not in a negative way. I think everyone was ready to just be like, great, we did it. This is awesome. Let's see what's next. I do know that there was talk about, is it worth exploring a sitcom for UPN or something?
Yeah,
That
we
was like
pitched one with them.
we kind of developed a like Kenan Kel go to college show for a little bit that we did talk about, and that felt like a natural evolution for them at that age. I think knowing now what we didn't know then, I think we might have went into the final season creating some sort of small arc that set up a final episode that maybe teased, where
Yeah.
are the characters going? What's going to happen? Just something that maybe felt like a bigger, more impactful, emotional finale. I think, did we do like they graduate high school episode that's near the
Yeah.
end?
Mid-season, then what they had April Fools, where like a college recruiter was there. Like,
Yeah,
Yeah,
so I think maybe I think that was maybe the extent to which we discussed arcs for this season,
Yeah.
or something that feels like there's some movement. And I do think maybe in the season, one of the earlier seasons, we did the Bye Bye Kenan, like we're going to move as a final episode, finale. So it felt like a slightly bigger episode. That makes sense. And at the time when we first started on Kenan Kel, we hadn't done sitcoms. We learned it as we were making it.
So right at the fourth year, we just got it, and then it goes away. So
So doing a big movie felt like, oh, well, we are doing a big thing. Did it feel totally true to what the show was? I don't know.
I hear you. It's always, you always feel like there's more to say and more to do. And I want to know, like, were there episodes that you thought of that didn't make it? Were there episodes that you think of now? Like, do you ever think of a Kenan and Kel sketch, or is that not really a thing?
I'd say what we do now is we think of, that's a funny episode of a show, and then whatever you're inevitably working on, it's like, how do you
It fits that,
mold that funny scenario into the show? And every now and then we'll be working on something, and we'll be talking about a scenario, and they'll be like, we did that kind of on Kenan and Kel, but we did it this way, and who's going to remember? Or this is the new way. Dial O for oops. You're not going to.
No, that's
not going to happen nowadays.
Well, it has to go get the tape back from the house. It does not make sense anymore.
No, it's like a time capsule piece. Yeah.
I think on the last show we did on Warped, we did a show where a guy leaves a message onto this like robot. They're like some Japanese robot toys that like record your voice and plays it back in a way that sounds funny.
Yeah.
So he confesses like his feelings for some girl on that, and she comes in and takes it back to her where she worked. So it was a similar vibe, but it was definitely modernized. In terms of like specific episodes that we have a list, and what didn't we get to?
No,
I don't think we had a ton. I think we were always so under the gun. Every season people sit around and talk about, maybe there's an idea like this, maybe there's an idea like this, and you put cards on the wall, and some of them start on this side of the wall and get moved further this way as the season goes. And you kind of at some point you kind of start laughing like, okay, we're obviously never making that an episode. Sometimes you have, it wasn't our idea, but I remember we had Kenan gets bar mitzvahed on a card on the wall. And like there was something funny to it. Like, okay, like he thinks, maybe if I throw myself a bar mitzvah, I'll get present. Like there seems to be something funny there. It never fleshed out to a full episode to us. So that stayed on a card on a wall for a long time.
It's still somewhere on a wall somewhere.
I think
like
there was
20-something years.
The episode where Kel is really good at bagging. They have the bagging competition or something.
Oh, Bag and Sag and Kel. Yeah.
Yes.
He goes and works for Angus, I believe. So after that episode, at the beginning of the next season, somebody wrote Angus and put that on a card and stuck it on the wall. And we just sat there and looked at that all season. And I don't know if that was supposed to inspire some kind of like Angus spinoff or what, but another episode did not happen with that. So
that's a great walk down memory lane. Let's talk about the present. Good burger too.
What's it like not writing them for so long and then getting to write?
Well, I'll tell you one of the weird things is we started to do the reboot, so we were getting right back there, and we were hanging out with Kel again, and he was getting in the out, and we're just like, oh man, this has to happen. And let me just tell you, the weirdest thing that's happened so far was we had a table read, kind of a secret one a few months back, before anybody really knew about it. It was just like us, Kenan and Kel. Kenan flew out from New York, and we did it in the same room we did the first table read at 27 years ago.
Oh, what?
Yeah, we all were in there going like, whoa, this is
crazy cool.
Wow.
Yeah.
It was pretty trippy.
It wasn't hard to get back in the mindset at all. Like, and as soon as we were writing, we came back on board for All That. I guess they called it season 11.
Yeah.
And Kel came back in, and we were writing Good Burger sketches with him. And at that point, we were just amazed. We would come up with jokes and be like, I can't believe we haven't done that joke before.
Yeah.
I can't believe we never did this. Like, how are we coming up with more stuff? And now there is new like technology, and and we never even got into like card readers or people ordering on DoorDash and coming to pick it up. Like we haven't even gotten there yet.
We're still punching up the movie, so it might be in there.
Yeah, sure.
So if you have any ideas,
Impossible Burger.
Yeah.
We'll send you our episode. Yeah.
You know what? I'll read it.
It was very natural to write for this character again, and
Yeah.
and I don't know when it first happened, but we were like, hey, we should talk about doing another movie, and we went in and we kind of came up with an idea for one, and went in and pitched. Here's what we picture, and
we were talking to Brian, Brian Robbins. We were in his office, and he just said, "Hey, it was just weird." He mentioned, he goes, what would you guys think about doing? And we just go, "Hey, can we pitch you something?" And so we pitched it. We didn't really plan on it that day, and he goes, "Oh, I like that," and then we did
nice.
it. And
we fleshed it out. It's definitely taken more than 6 months this time around. I will say,
because there's been a lot of the COVID
when
years
they say it took 10 years for this movie to get made, it's like we wrote for 6 months. Then no one talked to each other for 5-6 years.
Yeah,
then so it's not like they were working on it for 10 years. So.
Yeah.
But this time around, it has been a couple year.
Yeah, but we had to go back in a lot of the sketches to see what we had and hadn't done yet. As far as just bits and pieces, and the story is all new and it's all fresh and it's very current. The story, but it's about all the minutia and the bits. We wanted to make sure that we were fresh with those too. So we somehow came up with too many.
Yeah, and
we still have some left over. If they want to do a Good Burger 3, we're ready. 3D or something.
I do think it is set up to there's a lot of like Easter eggs and fun stuff for people that are fans of the original. And I think they'll like it. And,
it seems like a good chance for Kenan and Kel to kind of be reintroduced to another generation in a way.
That's the idea,
right?
Yeah. And it seems like they're excited about that too, because even when we went to that table read, it was just it like no time had passed.
It's amazing,
and they look exactly the same. I mean, it's crazy. They haven't aged, so that's a whole other issue that worked out really well.
Right.
So.
Yeah. No, we're so excited. I said, I don't think I've ever been more excited for the release of anything ever. And Adam said, "Yeah, that's a real good way to to get your hopes up."
Yeah.
And I said, "You know what? I don't care if my hopes are crushed as long as there's a Good Burger too." However, I will say, I had a title in mind that I was hoping would get used, but I don't think it made it. Better Burger. I mean, come on, no.
Yeah. We talked about Gooder
Burger was the one. Yeah,
it's not good. It's not good. Good Burger 2 is the way to go.
Yeah, your book back then.
Yes,
Good Burger 2 Go.
by Steve Holland, phenomenal writer and friend.
Was that the same Steve Holland that was wrote for several episodes?
Yeah, it was. And it's funny because I noticed he gets confused with Savage Steve Holland a lot. It was somebody else.
Yes. We corrected the Wikipedia page. It said Savage on a lot of it.
We've worked with both, and then the two of them worked together once. That must have been a really.
It was confusing. It was
that
confusing.
was very difficult. Yeah.
We used to go into a lot of meetings, I guess. And
neither of them are Savage. They're both great.
As far as the title, it's funny. We find out about these things. We're like, oh, is it called Good Burger 2? We don't even know.
Well, we always put Good Burger 2 was always on the front, on the title page of the script, every draft, and then. We knew Kenan Kel were going to be announcing it on Fallon. And I think even that day we had a little talk about I wonder if we're going to just call it Good Burger 2 or if we're going to look for a little clever blah, blah, blah. And then, of course, when they announced it, there's a logo. It's like,
Gotcha.
Okay, I guess.
Okay, yeah, it's and it's going to be on Paramount Plus, and I guess it's going to be...
we learned everything when you guys learned it, too.
Wow.
Did you see Kenan Kel on Fallon when they announced it? That was...
Oh, yeah.
Oh yeah, the room exploded when they were up.
Oh yeah, we had a whole We've been doing Kenan and Kel news since we ran out of episodes, so we've been playing the Nick News theme song, and
that's our news too.
We're big fans. We're big fans, guys.
Sort of seeing the success. The one other thing that I want to mention that was kind of surreal was when they did the Good Burger pop-up restaurant.
Oh wow!
A few times when they put it up in LA, and that was so. Cool. It was so weird, but so cool to see that. And he's sitting there and eating, and it was just really.
I mean, you know how many sketches you write that don't get turned into restaurants or any sort of activity?
Right.
I mean,
that's really awesome.
Really bizarre.
Sure. Yeah.
On that topic, I think there's also a burger place in Atlanta that refurbished the Good Burger Mobile.
Oh,
I went to a party and I met the guy who won the Good Burger Mobile.
No way.
They gave it out on Nickelodeon for some sort of raffle. I don't know what it was, what he had to do, and he won it. And he told me he ended up selling it or something because it was a big headache. because it didn't work.
Yeah, we were tracking it
Yeah.
for recently, and it recently ended up at this new place, and they refurbished
That's
it.
great.
Wow.
That's great.
Well, there was two of them because
There was one parked at the Nick Animation Studios in Burbank, and one day I went in there for a meeting, and I pulled in, and I look over,
Yeah,
and it's just
there it was.
and it was dust. I mean, it clearly had not been
Mhm.
Taken
touched
care of
in
yeah.
years.
Yeah.
So maybe that's the one that ended up in Atlanta.
Well, they're dusting it off, or they're making a new one for the new movie. So
Oh yeah.
Oh, right.
we got a new one.
That's what we're
coming
here.
in.
Oh yeah, I can't
No.
wait for all the merch. We were yeah, the Paramount Plus it's great. It's going to be accessible and people are going to get to see it. And I was really hoping though for an orange carpet. I was really hoping that was
Oh,
Well, they
Wow.
might still do like a premiere for
premiere, yeah.
we had a couple of them the last movie.
Adam and I were like, what if the goal of the Kenan and Kel podcast was to end up
Oh, it ends on the orange carpet.
so
Right.
On the
so
orange
I don't know
carpets.
if you guys know anybody who might be able to make that happen. I mean, we would
We if there is one, we will definitely keep in touch. How about that? And we had a couple of them the first time around, right? We had one in
Yeah, it was
Orlando and another one.
I remember there was a fun little
Yeah.
premiere at Paramount.
Yeah.
On the Paramount lot back in the day at a party.
Sorry, you can't go to that one. You were 0, I think.
You should have been there.
you listen
0 and 4.
The idea is as old as I am. The movie's as old as I am. Guys, this was such a pleasure to sit down and talk to you after all of these years of loving your work. So just thank you so much for
well,
the
thank
time
you.
and for everything.
Yeah, thanks for having us. It's always fun to talk about. We appreciate
Yeah,
it.
and I'm glad that you guys are entertained by it. I really am. It's really
Love that you're doing the podcast.
Yeah.
So I know you did like sort of like the March Madness bracket.
Yes. This March, I basically put I counted the Good Burger and the movie. Made 64 episodes, and we went through and
So
see
what
who the best.
what one?
Dial O for Oops was the top episode.
Oh,
all right.
Yeah, it won, which surprised me and ruined my bracket.
Yeah.
But,
wow.
I think our personal favorite's of Fenced In.
Can I tell you something about Fenced In? And then
Yeah,
okay, one thing
you could talk for as long as you want.
the one thing I did not like about Fenced In was that the fence wasn't made from it was too easy for him to get out, and we were like, no, and we had to fake it kind of. So he was like
Mhm.
holding
Yeah,
it. Never mind. It always bothered me.
My favorite part about that episode, because that is an incredible episode. My favorite part is when they're in Kenan's room and he goes, "Now the only thing that could mess
Wait,
this
I-
one up is you."
And then and Kel's face too.
Yeah,
They
his
pull
face.
the thing out.
So
and
good.
Kel's on. Yep.
That was hilarious.
I also like when Kenan had his pants off. He goes, "I'm feeling kind of a breeze, not so much from here up." But remember, he didn't know his pants were
Oh,
off.
that's
I
right,
like that
that's
too.
right.
That was a
Yeah.
great episode.
One of my favorites.
Great episode, yeah.
The planning and stuff, it felt like what we were doing for our podcast. That's why it aligned so well with us. It's like they're looking at this like, yeah, the only thing to go wrong is Kel. They know
Yeah.
that they're in a Kenan and Kel episode, which that
yeah.
Oh my god!
Yeah.
And that was our first episode coming back. I think season 3, and it just was a great start. Remember?
Was that season 3 or
Kim
4?
did
or
the
Yeah,
four?
season
field
3.
trip. It was great. Yeah,
Yeah, I remember it was like the first one of a season.
yeah. That was
Yeah, it was such a that's one of the ones before we started this podcast journey, always thinking back to the episodes I remember, and man, Fenced In was right up there. As was Ditch Day Afternoon. That's another one of my personal
Oh yeah, but
favorites.
they got
I mean,
that was where they
is-
got stuck in the
that
in
is
the
just
bank.
such a good
yeah.
bank.
My-
Yeah,
the
My
bank.
and then they don't want to get caught ditching, so they're trying to talk the
The bank robbers.
the guys that are keeping them hostage longer. 'Cause they don't get caught.
I want $2 million in unmarked bills and 1 can of orange soda.
and did he ask for money in marked bills too?
Yeah,
Because
yeah,
we
both
used-
marked and unmarked.
Yeah, right.
Because if we didn't, we should have. That's all.
No, you did.
One of the things I remember was the guy that played the security guard was supposed to faint or something,
Mhm.
and he was really had a very hard time fainting. And I remember Kevin running out onto the set to teach him how to faint.
Yeah.
And
Oh,
and
yeah.
in those days, we used to shoot. That was in Orlando, and we would. The booth was on the second floor. Back then, we would be in a booth on the second floor of this building, and if we wanted to give a note to the actors, we had to pick up the bat phone. It was like this red phone, and we'd ring, and a phone down there would ring, and the AD would run over and answer it and get our thing, and then run over to Kenan and Kel and say something. So, and anytime we're like, oh, we just got to go down there, we'd have to run outside, run down a flight of stairs, run down a hallway. Like, and anytime they would see us, it was almost like,
Elevator.
uh-oh, like, what are they doing here? Like,
Yeah.
it was so Kevin could sit there and
Yeah, I was a great
Yeah.
fainter.
he was.
Great fainter. I don't know how I did it, but it's funny. I think about every episode. I could remember being on the set. I could remember things about them, but I have to kind of, because before we did this, we went and we looked online. I went, oh yeah, and it just brought back a flood of memories. And that episode in particular, the Dial O was just, yeah, that's probably one of my favorites.
Yeah,
Glad that
I
won.
mean,
what was it up against?
the-
What did it come down to? 2 things? Did it came down to like the final 4? What were the?
Yeah. Let's I'll pull them up here. I've been staring at this bracket so many times. Our top 4 were Dial O for Oops, Baggin' Saggin' Kel, Freezer Burned, and Most Wetter Blues.
Oh, the freezer
Freezer
burn.
burn.
Wow.
Yeah.
Freezer
that's
Burned,
another
yeah.
one we could have made that a 2-hour episode, just people keep
That was
coming
so
in,
good.
keep coming in.
I mean, just
And then
kept going. The door
Brothers
kept
in that,
closing.
right?
yeah.
Yeah.
Dr. Joyce Brothers, remember her?
She was on there,
in
yeah. Actual Dr.
Yeah.
Joyce.
It was a very kind of, she used to call us up and they go, Joyce Brothers on the phone and say, I want to be on the show again, because she had grandchildren and stuff. And she was great,
Aw.
great sport. And,
I think that was an episode I remember the kind of thing that we would just sit around and just come up with funny names for the foods that they could be serving.
oh yeah, the Oi Matey Platey. I remember that was one of them.
skull and boneless chicken or something.
Yeah, that was it.
We probably, for every name you see, we probably had a whole list of no less than 50.
Yeah, we would spend way too much time like just coming up with that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And that was a lot of
Like the ham.
Yeah.
That is a personal favorite of ours. We're always quoting that one. I'll have the ham. And yeah, that we didn't even get a chance to talk about like the supporting characters and like
Mark
we had
Cram.
Biagio Messina. We got to
Mark Cram.
Yeah,
Mark Cram.
Cram.
We interviewed him. Yeah, and he was kind of giving us a scoop. It was so fun. I mean, what
He was
The
great.
watch. Remember when he had the watch?
Yeah,
and
the
they
Yeah,
thought
I
he
like
stole
that
it.
a
That
lot.
was great.
Yeah,
Yeah.
to catch
he
a
was
thief.
so good. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
Mark is great.
And then just the dynamic between Roger and Cheryl is great. And then Roger, like one of the just like the Roger Kel, that's such a we've all seen that in some way in our lives. Just some
Yeah.
grumpy old man just being so upset at the youth.
Yeah, it was a great.
And he was
cast.
great. And he was in our
Roger,
favorite horror
Jill.
movie, Dawn of the Dead. So
Right.
he was when he came walking in my God.
We were at the auditions,
Ooh.
and I remember when he walked in, me and Kevin both looked at each other like,
Well, he has the job. It's like we have to do whatever we can to get that
Yeah,
man, and he's a
We were
great
like-
actor.
And let's continuously throw things at his head for 4 seasons.
Alex heard him. Yeah,
Well, yeah, my favorite was when he fell out of the window.
At the end of that one.
Jason.
yeah.
I mean, you got that. That was such.
It was so fun to see him get really into something. I remember when Kyra had like the White House sugar cubes and like
Yes.
he's stealing the project from her, and of course Kel destroys it in some magnificent way. Yeah.
And then I remember he got drunk on cough syrup, right, and tried to land planes.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we changed his job a couple times, and we didn't even know what he was for the first, I think, season. I don't think we did, right? We kind of
I think
like
we made him an air traffic controller.
So, 'cause we
in
thought it
that
was funny.
episode, because we're like, oh, okay, what's the worst job to have if you're going to fall asleep?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That
No,
seemed like
so
a
that-
good one.
That worked out
Yeah,
real well.
that's how-
We make him like a ranger later or something.
Then he became a forest ranger.
Yep.
And then you guys don't mention his job or occupation for the rest of the show after that.
No, and the other funny thing is his boss. When we did Dial for Oops, I don't know what boss. A boss of what? We don't know. I still don't remember. But it's like he somehow had a boss. I don't know what he was doing.
Seriously, guys, thank you so much.
You put the last puzzle piece in our hearts. Like you guys.
You have our emails. If you ever something pops up.
Well, you know what? We should do if we get closer to Good Burger 2.
Post Good Burger 2, we'd love to hear about some
Oh, absolutely.
thoughts about
All that
absolutely.
kind of stuff. That'd be fantastic.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm
if you
sure
guys
there'll be
are-
a lot more info to share at some point.
The people who listen to this show, they will be first on the streaming list. They love the inside scoops, and so do we. It's been such a joy, you guys.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Oh,
Awesome.
great.
Well, thanks for having us.
Thanks for
We'd
having
love
us.
to come back anytime.
So we end every episode by saying, until next time, everybody, or then we say, "Oh, here it goes." So I don't know if you guys wanted to take us away with your best "Oh, here it goes." We'd be thrilled.
You can't see us waving our arms, flailing our arms. I think in the scripts too, it said something like Kenan does his like world famous arm flail, or like it was written in like a really odd way. Okay, so until next time.
Oh, here it goes. Did I get that right?
Oh man, you nailed it.
Thank you for listening. You can send us an email at KenanKelPodcast@gmail.com or leave us a voicemail at anchor.fm/KenanKelPodcast. You can find us on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, all at Kenan Kel Podcast.